My sister secretly moved into my apartment without permission, so I kicked her out, took back my space, and taught her a lesson she'll never forget. I never thought I'd have to kick out my own sister, but after what she pulled, I had no choice. I'm 29M, and my sister, Emma, is 26F. We've never been close. Growing up, she was always the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I wasn't treated badly, but it was clear from early on that Emma had an easier life. When I wanted something, I had to earn it. If I wanted money, I had to get a job. If I needed help, I was expected to figure it out. Emma, on the other hand, she barely lifted a finger. If she got into trouble, Mom and Dad bailed her out. If she failed at something, they made excuses. She never faced real consequences. I knew all of this, but I thought it would never directly affect my life. I was wrong. A few months ago, I moved into my dream apartment. It was nothing fancy, just a nice, modern, 2-bedroom in a great neighborhood. But I had worked hard for it. I spent years saving up, working overtime, making sacrifices just to afford a place I could truly call my own. When I got the keys, it felt like I had finally made it. Then Emma came along and ruined everything. She had been struggling for a while, bouncing between jobs, apartments, and friends' couches. She had a habit of quitting jobs when they got too boring or stressful, and she never lasted long in one place. But the one thing she always had? Mom and Dad's safety net. Except this time, they were done. Emma had burned through her last chance with them. They told her she needed to grow up and figure things out on her own. And for the first time in her life, she actually had to be an adult. So, what did she do? She invited herself to live with me. It started with a phone call. "Hey, big brother, how's the new place?" I knew something was up. Emma never called me unless she wanted something. "It's great," I said, keeping it vague. "That's awesome. I was actually thinking, maybe I could stay with you for a little while, just until I get back on my feet." There it was. I didn't even hesitate. "Emma, I love you, but that's not happening." Silence. Then she launched into a full sob story. She told me she had nowhere else to go, that she was trying to be responsible, that she had changed and just needed a little help. She begged me to reconsider, saying it would only be for a couple of weeks and that she wouldn't be a burden. I didn't buy it. "I'm sorry, but I can't," I said firmly. "You need to figure this out on your own." She huffed and muttered something about how I was being selfish. Then she hung up. I thought that was the end of it. I was so wrong, because 1 week later I came home to find Emma in my apartment. I had been working late that day. It was about 9 p.m. when I finally got back, exhausted and just looking forward to unwinding. But the second I opened the door, something felt off. There were shoes by the door that weren't mine, a purse on the counter, the faint smell of vanilla, Emma's signature perfume, and then I heard music coming from my living room. I stepped inside, and there she was. Emma was sprawled out on my couch, scrolling through her phone like she owned the place. She had food containers on the coffee table, a half-empty soda next to her, and she was wrapped in my blanket. She looked up casually, like this was totally normal. "Oh, hey, you're home late." I just stood there, trying to process what I was seeing. "Emma, what are you doing here?" She stretched like she had all the time in the world and said, "I moved in." I blinked. "You what?" She sighed. Like I was the crazy one for being confused. "Look, I know you said no, but I didn't have anywhere else to go. I was going to get a hotel, but those are so expensive. Like, you know how ridiculous hotel prices are right now, so I figured why waste money when you have a whole extra bedroom?" I felt my eye twitch. "Emma," I said slowly, "how did you even get in?" "Oh, Mom gave me the spare key you left at their place. Super convenient, right?" I saw red. That key was meant for emergencies. Actual emergencies. Not for my freeloader sister to let herself in whenever she wanted. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. "Emma, you can't just let yourself into my apartment without permission." She waved me off. "Relax. It's not like I'm some random stranger. I'm your sister. Family helps family." I looked around at the mess she had already made in one day. Empty food containers, a pile of her clothes on my armchair. My gaming setup moved because she wanted to plug in her laptop. And then, the final straw, she had put up decorations, framed pictures of herself, throw pillows that said "Home Sweet Home," like she had been here for months. My patience snapped. "Emma, pack your stuff, you're leaving." Her jaw dropped. "What? No? You can't just kick me out?" "Actually, I can," I said. "Because this is my apartment. You don't live here. You never did." She crossed her arms, pouting like a child. This is so unfair. I literally have nowhere to go. I folded my arms. Not my problem. She gasped, like I had personally betrayed her. Wow, so much for being a good brother, I scoffed. A good sister wouldn't break into my apartment. Emma stood up, grabbing her purse. Fine, whatever. I'll just crash somewhere else tonight. But we're not done. And with that, she stormed out. I thought maybe that would be the end of it. Maybe she'd take the hint and move on. But Emma? She wasn't giving up that easily. I thought kicking Emma out would be the end of it, but I should have known better. She left my apartment acting like I had just ruined her life, and if there's one thing Emma is good at, it's making herself the victim. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of texts from her. Stuff like, I can't believe you actually kicked me out. I had nowhere to go. And Mom and Dad are so disappointed in you. She even threw in the classic, I thought family was supposed to help each other. I ignored her. There was nothing to say. She let herself into my apartment without permission and then acted like I was the villain for not letting her stay. I thought she'd eventually cool down and figure things out on her own. Nope. 2 days later, I got home from work, and guess who was waiting at my door with a suitcase? She looked completely unbothered, scrolling through her phone like she belonged there. The moment she saw me, she lit up and went, Hey, guess what? Mom and Dad said I could stay with you until I find my own place. I actually laughed because, what? I told her, Emma, Mom and Dad don't live here. Their opinion doesn't matter. She frowned and said they thought I was being unreasonable and that since they had settled it, there was no reason for me to keep fighting her on it. Like this was some family decision and not my own apartment. I told her I didn't care what they thought. I already said no. She crossed her arms and immediately went into victim mode, saying, Oh, so you're just going to let me be homeless? I sighed. You're not homeless, Emma. Really? Where exactly do you expect me to go? She shot back. I shrugged. A short-term rental, a cheap motel, stay with a friend. She threw her hands in the air. Oh yeah, let me just magically pull money out of nowhere, which was funny considering she somehow had the money to buy decorations and throw pillows when she snuck into my apartment the first time. I brought that up and she immediately went quiet. Then, because Emma has no sense of boundaries, she actually tried to push past me into the apartment. I blocked her. She stood there, waiting for me to cave, but I didn't. Eventually, she huffed, grabbed her suitcase, and stomped off while mumbling, Fine, but you're going to regret this. I thought that was the end of it. I was so wrong. The next morning, my mom called, and the moment I picked up, she went off on me. She didn't even say hi. She just jumped straight into, What is wrong with you? I sighed and said, Let me guess, Emma ran to you and said I kicked her out? You did kick her out, she snapped, like she had just caught me in some big lie. She broke into my apartment and tried to move in without permission, I said. What did you expect me to do? She's your sister, Mom shot back. You should want to help her. She's an adult. She can help herself. Oh, come on. She's just getting on her feet. She's been getting on her feet for years. She just needs a little support. She needs to take responsibility for her own life. Mom sighed dramatically, the way she always does when she's trying to guilt-trip me. Then she said, I didn't raise you to be this selfish. There it was. I told her if she was so worried about Emma, she should let her live at their house. That's when she hit me with, she doesn't want to live here. She said our house is too far from everything. I almost laughed. So let me get this straight, I said. She can't live with you because your house is too far, but she can break into my apartment and just claim it as her own? Mom ignored that completely and just said, She's your sister, and this is my apartment. Mom sighed like I was being so difficult and said, I just don't understand why you're being like this. I told her, Mom, I'm not going to argue about this. Emma isn't living here. End of discussion. There was a long pause. Then she said in the most disappointed voice ever, I'm just so disappointed in you. Then she hung up. So yeah, now my entire family thinks I'm the bad guy. I fully expected Emma to try again. She already broke in once. What was stopping her from doing it again? I decided I wasn't going to let it get that far. If she wanted to keep pushing, I'd make damn sure she learned her lesson. After my mom hung up on me, I knew Emma wasn't going to stop. She had already broken into my apartment once and tried to force her way back in again. Now that she had our parents backing her up, I figured it was only a matter of time before she pulled something even worse. I was right. A few days later, I got home from work and noticed something was off. Nothing major, just little things. My doormat was slightly crooked, and I could swear the lock felt different when I turned my key. I stepped inside, and immediately I knew. Emma had been in my apartment. Again. Again. It wasn't trashed or anything, but I noticed small details. The TV remote was in a different spot. My fridge door was slightly open. A Starbucks cup was sitting on the counter, and I sure as hell didn't put it there. I walked into my bedroom, and the final confirmation was sitting right on my bed. A sweatshirt that wasn't mine. Emma had been here. I checked my front door, and sure enough, the spare key I had hidden inside my lockbox was missing. She must have figured out the code and let herself in. I was livid. I immediately called her. She picked up on the second ring, and before I could even say a word, she went, "Oh, hey, what's up?" Like she wasn't currently squatting in my apartment while I wasn't home. I cut straight to the point. "Emma, were you in my apartment today?" Silence. Then she let out the fakest little laugh. "Oh my God, don't freak out. I just needed a place to chill for a few hours. No big deal. You broke into my apartment." "It's not breaking in if I had a key," she said, like she was so clever. I gritted my teeth. "That wasn't your key." She huffed. "Okay, whatever, I was going to tell you, but you've been so uptight lately, I figured you'd just overreact." I was done. I told her to get her stuff, bring back my key, and never step foot in my apartment again. She lost it. She started whining about how she literally had nowhere else to go and how I was being so dramatic about it. She kept throwing out excuses. How it wasn't a big deal, how it was just for a little while, how Mom and Dad said it was fine. I told her I didn't care. She could go stay with a friend. She could sleep in her car for all I cared. I was done with her walking all over me and expecting me to just take it. And when she realized I wasn't budging, she went nuclear. She started screaming into the phone, saying I was heartless, that I was a horrible brother, that she hoped I enjoyed being an only child because she was done with me. Then she hung up. Not even 5 minutes later, my phone started blowing up. Texts from my mom. "How could you treat your sister like this? You're taking this too far. She is family. You should be helping her, not turning your back on her." Then my dad called. Now, my dad never gets involved in family drama. He usually just sits back, lets my mom handle it, and avoids taking sides. So when I saw his name pop up, I actually hesitated before picking up. I answered, and before I could say anything, he sighed and said, "Look, I don't know what's going on between you and Emma, but your mother is really upset." I cut right to the chase. "Dad, did Mom tell you Emma broke into my apartment?" There was a pause. Then, "Well, she said you weren't letting her stay with you, and I guess she was just desperate." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Dad, she stole my key and let herself in without telling me." He sighed again. "Look, I get that you're mad, but she's your sister. Just let her stay until she figures things out." I laughed. "Absolutely not. She's not asking to stay forever." "She's not asking at all," I shot back. "She's demanding. She literally broke in. She's treating my apartment like it's her backup plan whenever things get hard, and you and Mom are just enabling it." Dad went quiet. Then, in the most exhausted voice ever, he said, "Son, just do whatever you think is best." And then he hung up. I didn't even have time to process that because not even a minute later, Emma started texting me again. "Fine. You win. I'm leaving your stupid key under the mat. Don't ever talk to me again. Hope you enjoy your selfish little life because when you need help one day, don't come crying to me." I went outside, and sure enough, my key was sitting under the doormat. I checked my lockbox, reset the code, and moved the whole thing inside. And just like that, Emma was finally out of my life. After Emma finally gave my key back and left my apartment, I thought I was free. No more unwanted intrusions, no more guilt-tripping from my parents, no more dealing with her constant entitlement. It felt like I had finally won, and for a while, it seemed like I had. She stopped calling, she stopped texting, my parents went quiet about the whole thing. A month passed, and I started to believe she had finally moved on. Maybe she had figured things out. Maybe she had found some other poor soul to mooch off of. Then I got a voicemail from an unknown number. I don't normally check voicemails from numbers I don't recognize, but something told me to listen. The second I hit play, my stomach dropped. It was Emma. She was crying. "Hey, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I don't know where else to go." She sniffled, then let out a shaky breath. "I messed up, okay? I really messed up. Please, call me back." I stared at my phone, trying to process what I had just heard. A part of me, the old me, almost felt bad. Despite everything, she was still my sister, and she sounded genuinely upset. But then I remembered everything she had done, the way she had let herself into my home without permission, the way she had tried to manipulate me and our parents into giving her what she wanted, the way she had thrown a tantrum every time she didn't get her way. I wasn't going to fall for it. Instead of calling her back, I called my mom. She answered immediately. Before you say anything, I already know why you're calling. I leaned against the counter. What's going on? Mom let out a heavy sigh. Emma got evicted. I blinked. Evicted from what? She was renting a place with a friend, but apparently she wasn't paying her half of the rent. The landlord finally kicked them out. I let out a dry laugh. So let me guess, she's expecting me to fix it? She just needs a place to stay for a little while, Mom said, already slipping into pleading mode. Just until she figures things out. I shook my head. No, Mom groaned. Oh, come on, don't be like that. She's your sister. I wasn't doing this again. Mom, she broke into my apartment. Twice. She gave the key back. After I caught her, she has nowhere else to go. She can stay with you. She doesn't want to stay here. I laughed. Oh, so her preferences matter, but mine don't? Mom hesitated, and for the first time I could tell she didn't have an answer, so I kept going. She doesn't want to stay with you because she knows you'd hold her accountable. She wants to stay with me because she thinks she can walk all over me. Mom sighed, quieter this time. She's just scared. I almost felt bad. Almost. But I had spent years being Emma's punching bag, and I wasn't about to undo all the progress I had made in setting boundaries. So I said she's scared because for the first time in her life, her actions have consequences, and I'm not going to save her from them. Mom was silent for a long time. Then she muttered, I just wish you weren't so cold about it. I shook my head. I'm not cold. I'm just done. I hung up. Emma must have realized I wasn't budging because she stopped calling. She didn't try to show up at my apartment again, and she stopped spamming my inbox with guilt-tripping texts. From what I heard through family, she finally got a job and started renting a cheap studio. She wasn't living the high life, but she was taking care of herself, probably for the first time ever. And the best part, I didn't feel bad at all. Emma spent years making her problems everyone else's responsibility. She took and took and took, and for the first time, she had to figure it out on her own. And she did. Mom still tries to bring her up sometimes, usually in a way that makes me feel like I should reach out. But honestly, I don't owe Emma a relationship. Maybe one day we'll talk again, maybe we won't. Either way, I finally have my peace, and I'm not giving it up for anyone.